It's one of those days. Hi, hello, my name is Asha. Welcome to Pages in the Stars. If you're new here, hello. If you're returning, welcome back. And if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can be alerted to all my bookish, non-bookish, and sometimes ranty content. Me and my hot chocolate would like to wish you a happy beginning of the week and a happy February, happy Black History Month. Today we're going to sit down and talk about the books that I read and or didn't read in January and the books that I would like to read in February. So January was not a great reading month for me. I started off with a DNF, which is really disappointing because it was a DNF of a book that I really wanted to read. It was Ironheart by Nina Varela. I really wanted to like Ironheart, I really did, but I think the pacing felt off for me and I found myself constantly being taken out of the world and I just wasn't caring as much about the characters as I wanted to. I ended up putting the book down a lot and then eventually I found myself not really wanting to pick it back up. So I kind of just had to look myself in the mirror and say, you're DNFing this book. And we're learning to be okay with DNFing books because sometimes we're just not in the right mood or we just don't like the book and that is a-okay. Right, hot chocolate? Anyway, so after my DNF, I decided I needed to reinvigorate myself with a genre that I usually don't read, and that is adult contemporary romance. So I read Take a Hint, Dani Brown, and everyone who has been raving about Talia Hibbert and her books and the Brown sisters books, you were all right. I loved every moment I spent reading Take a Hint, Dani Brown. I devoured the book in 2 days, okay? And again, I'm not someone who usually reads adult contemporary books, especially adult contemporary romance, but I loved everything about Take a Hint, Dani Brown. I loved that we see a Black woman at the forefront of a romance novel. I loved getting to watch Dani chase her dreams. I saw so much of myself in Dani right down to her wall of post-it notes that reminded me so much of me. I also loved Zaf. I loved his care. I loved his vulnerability throughout the story. And one thing I really appreciated was how Talia Hibbert handled mental illness throughout the book. She didn't shy away from talking about how grieving for someone can affect your mental health, and that was something that I really appreciated that she included. I also love the fact that we got a trigger warning at the beginning of the book saying that the topics in this book were going to include anxiety and grieving for lost family members and people close to you. That was something that I was really thankful for because I lost someone close to me a few years ago, so when death is a topic in a book, it's usually really hard for me to read, but when I'm prepared for it and I know what I'm going to read, it's a lot easier and I'm usually able to enjoy the book more. Trigger warnings don't ruin books, they don't spoil books, they're just there to help the reader prepare for what they're about to encounter in the book. So thank you, Talia Hibbert. I love Take a Hint, Dani Brown. I can't wait to read Chloe Brown and I can't wait for Eve Brown to come out. Just thank you. I loved it so much. So after finishing Take a Hint, Dani Brown, I decided this year I was going to revisit my childhood. And by that, I mean, I decided this year I'm going to reread the entire Zatch Bell manga series. So this month I read volumes 1 and 2, and it was just great to remind me of something that I really loved when I was in middle school and when I was a teenager, and still really do love today. Genuinely, Zatch Bell is one of my favorite manga series. I have never been into a manga or an anime like I was Zatch Bell. So to go back and start revisiting and rereading the manga was something that I really enjoyed, and I found myself remembering things from when I was a kid, when I was in middle school. In the first 2 novels, you get introduced to a couple of our main characters. They do a great job of introducing the stakes and the conflict and exactly what is happening or what is going to happen in the coming volumes. I really enjoyed it, and I'm actually going to go deeper into it in another video that I plan on filming. I just found myself constantly smiling, and I'm really glad I decided to take on this. I don't want to call it a challenge, but I'm really glad I decided to do it this year. If there's one thing 2020 taught me, it's just try and do more things that you know you're going to love and that you know you're going to have fun with. So for me, this year, that means rereading all of Zatch Bell. That's it for the wrap up. Now we're going to move into my TBR, or the books that I'm going to try to read in February, but I'm not going to beat myself up if I don't read. And here's the thing, most of the authors on this TBR are Black authors. It is Black History Month, but I do not read Black authors only in February. I read Black authors throughout the entire year, and if you're someone who says, oh, it's Black History Month, I have to only buy from Black businesses and only read Black books, but I'm only going to do it in February,
I need you to go home and rethink your life.
it's not helpful. That's highly performative, and you're not doing the good that you think you do. So buy from Black businesses throughout the entire year. read Black authors throughout the entire year, support Black creators throughout the entire year, not just in the month of February. Okay. Let's get into my TBR. The first book I'm going to read this month is Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky by Kwame Umbalia. I've had this book for quite a while, but it does deal with the topic of grief. We follow a 13-year-old boy, Tristan, who has recently lost his best friend in a bus accident, and to help him cope with the trauma of losing his friend, his parents decided it was going to be a good idea to have him go spend some time on his grandparents' farm in the South. So because it dealt with that topic of grief, I've put it off for reading it. I've put off reading it for a very long time, but I've decided I'm going to do it now. While he's on his grandfather's farm, he gets sucked into this world of African American and West African folklore. I'm only 60 pages in or so. I can tell already this is going to be a slow reading month for me. I'm having a lot of fun with this book. It's been a while since I've read a middle grade book, and I think taking a step back and kind of going back to my roots of where I first fell in love with fantasy and sci-fi with middle grade was a really good idea for me to start this month off so I don't fall back into a reading slump. So yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky. The second book on my list is The Stars and the Blackness Between Them by Junauda Petrus. This is a reread for me. The Stars and the Blackness Between Them was one of my favorite books that I read in 2020. It is actually... No, it is not on my favorite shelf because it's sitting on my bed. But yeah, it was one of my favorite books that I read in 2020. It absolutely ripped my heart out in the best possible ways. There's so much heart, so much emotion in this book. I love the aspects of magical realism and spirituality we get throughout the book. The Stars and the Blackness Between Them follows two girls. One girl, Mabel, from Minneapolis, and the other girl, Audra, from Trinidad. The two girls meet when Audra is forced to leave Trinidad and go live with her estranged father in Minneapolis because her grandmother caught her with a girl. The story follows Mabel and Audra and the relationship that springs and buds between them, and I don't want to say anything more than that because I actually did have part of this book spoiled for me when I was watching booktube videos, and I don't want to do that for anyone else. But read The Stars and the Blackness Between Them. It's an absolutely beautiful book and you will not regret it, and I'm excited that I get to reread it this month. The third book on this list is Raybearer by Jordan Ifeweko. I got this book last summer and somehow I didn't manage to get to it in 2020, but I am making it a priority in 2021. This book follows Tarisai, who has been raised in isolation, and she's basically tasked with competing with other children to earn a spot on the Crown Prince's Council of 11, from what I understand. If she's chosen, she'll be bonded with the other council members through something called the Ray, and this is really important for Tarisai because she's felt like she's never had anywhere to belong before. So by being bonded with this council, she'll feel like she has the belonging that she craves. It's heavily inspired and influenced by West African folklore, and it's again another story that I'm really excited to read. Anytime we get a fantasy book with a black girl on the cover, it warms my heart, and I want to read all the fantasy books with black girls on the cover. Just give them all to me now. I want them all now. Thank you. The next book I am going to read that I am super excited for. I need to stop saying the word excited. I've said it like 15 times in this video. Anyway, the next book that I'm going to read is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. I am doing this for a buddy read, so that makes it even more exciting. From what I understand, this book takes place in New York City while some type of invader is trying to swallow the city and consume it in darkness. And that's all I really know about the book. One of the things I've heard about the book is that one of the questions it poses is, what if a city had a soul? And I think that's a really interesting concept, particularly to set in New York City. So I can't wait to read that book. I actually really need to start it because the person I'm buddy reading it with is way far ahead of me. Anyway, moving on. Last on my TBR are volumes 3, 4, and 5 of Zatch Bell. To keep up with my pace, I'm trying to read 3 volumes a month so I can hopefully finish by the end of the year. So I'm really excited to do that. That's something that I'm doing for me and only for me, and it's just something that's bringing me joy and making me happy. Except for volume 3, because in volume 3 we get introduced to this guy, and I'm just... I don't like him. Okay, it's not that I don't like him, he just annoys me. He annoys me, and Zatch Bell stands don't come for me, okay? No Conchime gets cooler later in the series. That's going to wrap it up for this video. I'm going to finish enjoying my hot chocolate. What books are you reading this month? Who are some of your favorite black authors? What books are you most looking forward to coming out in February? Just tell me everything in the comments. Give a like, give a subscribe if you feel so inclined, and I will see everybody in the next video. Bye!